Back in 1984, a young Hideki Anno was so broke that he had to work on Birth, and that's where we got Evangelion from. Birth is a hour and 20-minute OVA that once employed a young Hideki Anno as an animator, and that's pretty much all people know it for. In fact, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have watched this anime if I was such a big Eva fag. Aside from Anno's involvement, is this OVA really worth checking out? That's what this video is going to be about. The plot of the OVA revolves around organics versus inorganics in this sci-fi fantasy world. Organics being people like me, and hopefully you, and inorganics being robot people, whose purpose is explained later on. I guess this is going to be spoiler-free. I don't know. There's not much plot to spoil. This OVA has a surprisingly good Japanese cast, including Mina Tominaga, best known for being Noa Izumi from Pat Labor, playing Rasa, the girl biker, who's pretty spunky. I mean, I like her character design, but it doesn't really make sense why she has a space helmet sort of thing and then just an open cut dress. Like, if the air was poisonous, then wouldn't you need something to help you breathe? Or is there any reason for that suit outside of being skin tight fan service? Kazuki Yao, also known as Judo Ashita from Double Zeta, plays Nam. This is Rasa's love interest? This is Rasa's platonic friendship that she has. Ichiro Nagai, Cherry from Urusei Yatsura, and many, many, many other roles, plays Bao, who's probably the best character in this, mainly because Nagai's voice is really good. It's just the voice alone sells the character.
Bao! Warp da! Warp da! Warp だってそんなもんこの船にはないですよ。甘いよ君。この日のために密かにワープ装置をつけておいたんだよ。へえ。やっぱりすごいや、バオさん。3、2、1、ワープエンジンストール。すっげえだろうが。すごいですね。そう。はい。ワープ完了オールグリーン。ワープ移動距離527メートルだよ。もうちょいやったら600メートルは飛ぶと思ったぜ。もう一回ワープエンジン。
He's just so much fun to watch. And finally, Kanato Shiozawa, who is known for being Oberstein in Legend of Galactic Heroes, and many, many other roles, like Ichiro Nagai. He plays Kim, the kind of stoic, level-headed member of this foursome. Together, these characters mesh really well, and I think that's what carries the OVA. Well, they're never really well developed, and they don't really have really good personality traits. I think just their interaction between them was enough to keep me watching the plot. Bao has an obsession with Rasa. Nam is the hero, but he also gets what's probably the coolest scene in the OVA. And Kim's sort of there just to balance out Bao's wild and crazy nature. The plot is pretty straightforward and simple to a degree. It's almost just an excuse to get to those chase scenes. And if there's one thing this anime does very well, it's chase scenes. The characters move really fluidly, but that does make for a lot of off-model frames. It's by no means the pinnacle of animation, but it is a great example of what OVAs at the time were doing with even just small budgets like Birth. It's also pretty funny in a weird Japanese way. A lot of the inorganic bad guys have these moments where they suddenly become really, really human, and then they get killed off, but it's played up as a joke, so maybe that's just the sadist in me that's laughing, but I thought it was pretty funny. The ship designs are gorgeous. If there's one thing I like about 80s anime, it's the ship designs. Now, if there's one complaint I would have about Birth, is actually when the plot kicks in. Now, that's weird. That's a weird complaint to have. But let me explain. And I'm gonna go into spoilers here. Towards the middle of the OVA, it's explained that the universe is in an embryonic state. In order to rebirth the universe, humanity has to defeat the inorganics, which to me is kind of like Space Runaway Ideon in reverse, which is also Hideki Anno's favorite anime. But people are going to say, oh wait, Hideki Anno, only an animator on Birth. He probably didn't have that much involvement with it. Well, Sadamusu Shinya, the director of Birth, also was an episode director on Ideon. I don't think the comparison is too far off, even if it doesn't seem that way at first. This is very apparent in the ending, where the world does become rebirthed, unfortunately at the expense of our entire cast, which is where this sort of loses me. Because once you have these fun characters that mesh really well, to kill them off at the end, even if you're not really killing them off, is really out of nowhere. Especially with the tone, the very humorous tone that it had been going for before. Also, the ending itself is really weird. I don't know if it was just a file I got, but there was no audio at the very end for the English track or the Japanese track. However, there were subtitles for the words that were supposed to be there, and you can tell because you can see the characters' mouths moving. It's not like the ending wasn't exactly out of nowhere, because they basically explained what they were going to do in the middle of the movie. But you still didn't think they were going to do it. Also, can anyone else tell which part Hideki Anno animated? So what's the verdict on it? Well, if you don't come in with high expectations, you'll probably have fun with it. I think it's more interesting to look at it as a sort of piece of OVA history, because a lot of the voice actors, animators definitely, never had any big credits before that. They really went on to go do a lot more things. Birth was not just the name of an OVA, but it was also the birth of a handful of people that went on to be very talented in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s of anime. Like a lot of OVAs from around that time, there's not much there. That doesn't mean it isn't a fun ride nonetheless.